We have Mr. Zhirnov, Russia's envoy to Afghanistan, Mr. Zhirnov.
Zhirnov.
Good evening,
Дмитрий Александрович, добрый
Mr.
вечер.
Zhirnov. Good evening.
Добрый вечер.
Good evening.
Ну, вот вы можете объяснить, что
Could you
происходит в Кабуле?
explain, could
Да, и,
you
собственно,
give
вот
us
мы
the
пока судим это
overview
по
of
тем
what's going on in
видеосъемкам,
Afghanistan,
которые мы показываем.
according to
Это
those
действительно
footages
паника,
that
это
has
небольшое
been
количество людей, которые
circulated?
вот,
Is it a
собственно,
panic
создали
or
этот фон.
turmoil, or just the crowd of people are demonstrating likely? Is these footages
той
come
части
from the
аэропорта,
part
которая
of the
контролируется
airport
американцами.
under the U.S.?
В городе,
In the
в городе
city,
ситуация
the
прямо
situation
противоположная.
is
В городе, который сейчас контролируется
totally
талибами,
different.
ситуация прямо противоположная. Все
Under
спокойно.
Taliban is totally quiet and
То
peaceful.
есть
Everything
ситуация
is
нормализовалась.
the situation
Вчера
has
в слитном
gone to
городе
normal, and yesterday in the
были
city there were
беспорядки,
some
перестрелки, то,
disorders
что
and skirmishes and
беспорядочный огонь шел.
local combats,
Какие-то пожары, запах
and there
гари
were some
доносился.
fires there, and I could
Это было
feel the
связано
smell of
с
fire. That had
резким,
to
вот
do
как
with
карточный
the
домик, падением,
abrupt
схлопыванием режима
falling
Гани.
like a
И
courthouse of the
ведь
Ghani's
как
regime.
произошло?
How did
Талибы
that turn
вошли в
out to
город
be? When Talibs
утром
entered
безоружными,
into the city having
подошли
no
к нарядам
firearms, they came
полиции и
up to the
сказали:
police
пожалуйста,
and
сдавайте
they asked
оружие.
them to
И
lay
все.
down arms, and that's it.
Все силовые ведомства
All the
самоочистились после этого.
they all the
Потом бежал
regime
Гани
with the military
со всем
regime
руководством
just
Афганистана, со всем
resigned,
своим
and all Ghani
окружением.
with his
И
entourage,
вот
they resigned, and
талибы не входили в
Taliban
город,
entered the city.
потому что очень не хотели, чтобы были какие-то
They
беспорядки,
didn't want to be any
кровопролития, стычки,
bloodshed,
вооруженные
skirmishes,
столкновения.
or
После
some
этого
disorder. Right after that,
они приняли капитуляцию
they
афганских
accepted
национальных
the
сил безопасности.
defeat or
Вот
capitulation of
человек,
the Afghan
который
security national
от талибов это
forces.
делал, я завтра с ним
And the
встречусь, потому что
chieftain, the
есть
head from the
потребность
Taliban, I'm going to meet him tomorrow to figure
дорешать
out everything, what's
вопросы
going to
безопасности
be in the
посольства.
future
Уже,
for
я
the
чуть позже
security
расскажу,
of
уже
the
много талибами
embassy.
сделано.
And a lot
Вот
has
очень
been
хорошо
done by
сделано.
Talibs, and they have
Претензий
worked out
нет.
that perfectly
Вот.
well.
И вот на фоне вот
And
этого
against
падения
this
режима
background of the falling of the regime of Ghani,
на улице вышли
right in the street, marauders
шайки,
came up to
какие-то просто.
hit the
Нужно понимать,
streets
что
in
в
hordes.
Афганистане вооружены почти все взрослые люди,
The adults
и даже
are
подростки.
armed, even the
Вот. И
teenagers are armed.
когда вечером
When in the
талибы,
evening,
удостоверившись,
when
что
Taliban made sure that everything, that the regime fell,
никаких
and there was
ситуаций в
no
городе не будет,
conflict
народ,
there,
судя по всему,
and
их ждал.
people were waiting for them.
С
Obviously,
надеждой.
they were waiting for
Они
them.
вошли в город,
They
объявили
entered the
22
city,
часа
and at
комендантский час.
22, they
У
proclaimed that there was going to be curfew, coffee,
преступники это знают. И все тут же
and everything calmed down, and there was no looters there. I'm here since May 2020,
И первый
and
сегодня
this is the
день,
first
когда
night
в Кабуле было
when
спокойно.
Kabul
Когда
is
мы здесь жили,
quiet.
работали при
When we
режиме
worked
Гани,
here under
каждый день мы
Ghani,
слышали в день
every night we
3-4-5
heard 3 or
хлопков. Это были
5
взрывы,
blasts or
подрывы мин,
explosions
теракты.
or mine
Вот первая
explosions and
ночь
terrorist acts.
абсолютно
This is the
тихо.
first
И
night.
первые сегодня сутки до конца.
These are the
Все тихо.
first 24
Талибы
hours.
раздали телефоны горячей
Taliban
линии
have handed
населению,
out the telephone
чтобы если там
telephone numbers of the hotlines in case the looters come there to contact them, so that Taliban would come over there and then to just clear up the situation. And very early in the morning they came, and who is responsible for the security came to the embassy, and they came to the embassy, would like to implement our obligations, what we pledged to do, would like to be responsible for the security of the embassy, and asked the Interior Ministry of the to resign, and they asked them to leave their checkpoints. They asked the local police to leave the checkpoints. And at the entrance of our embassies, they put there the gunship-mounted vehicles. And once again, I will reiterate, we are and they wanted to tell that we are responsible for your
Посчитали, вы
security.
пришли, все, спрос с нас.
And the Taliban
В
arrived
городе,
there,
в
and
городе
they
работают
made sure that
школы,
you are going to ask for the
даже для
security
девочек,
from us.
что
Even
немножко контрастирует с
and the situation what has to do with the
линией
girls
западников
and
на то, что
women,
там талибы
not
едят
only with the
женщин.
Western
В общем,
view,
оказалось, что не
but
совсем
it turned
так.
out to be that it's
У
quite
нас
different.
здесь рядом,
Right
рядом с
next to
посольством
us,
школа.
we have a school,
Вот.
and
Я
we could
сегодня
hear
утром проходил,
early in the
они с 7 утра
morning when I
начинают.
passed by, I
Там
could
слышите
hear
детский
the
смех, какие-то
kids
игры, там они играют
giggling,
просто во дворе.
playing around there.
Вот такая
And
ситуация.
here is the situation
Талибы,
unfolding. And
я хочу
Taliban,
проехаться по
I
городу с
want
ними
to ride
посмотреть,
across the
как и что.
city,
Они
and
сказали,
Taliban told
выбирайте
me you
любой
can
маршрут
choose any
по
itinerary
своему
according
усмотрению в качестве проверки.
what
Любой
you
маршрут.
like, and you can
Вы
check that,
увидите,
make
что
sure for
все
yourself that
спокойно.
everything is
Вот такая
calm and
ситуация.
peaceful. And here is the
На самом
situation now.
деле
In
ситуация
reality, the
прогнозируемая
situation
абсолютно.
could
И
be
вот Дипкорп не даст
forecasted.
соврать.
Because the diplomatic
Я,
corps won't
я
let
это
me
им говорю,
bring
что
out
вот такой
some
будет
false information.
конец.
Uh,
Может быть, чуть-чуть это произошло быстрее,
I
чем я
forecasted
ожидал.
that
Но
these events would unfold, but they started unfolding a
на
little
чем были
bit
основаны мои
earlier.
прогнозы?
What
У
were
нас, у
my
нашего
forecasts
посольства,
based
у
on?
наших
Because
ребят, которые здесь
our
работают, моих коллег, очень
I
большие.
have a lot of colleagues working
Здесь
in the
такая социальная
embassy.
база контактов.
We have a lot of contacts
И
around in the
абсолютно все,
city, and
вот простые
absolutely,
люди, ну как простые
even
люди,
right,
вот, что
laymen,
называется,
ordinary
работяги, там,
people, those blue
учителя,
collar
профессуры,
workers,
инженеры,
professors
да и,
and
вот, да
professors,
и те, которые
teachers, and those
самую простую работу
the
выполняют,
most
какую-то
ordinary people who
черновую,
do the
таковых здесь
dirtiest job,
80%.
which
Да, вот живут
constitutes
очень,
something like 80% of
ну,
the
в нищих
population.
условиях,
They live
в
in
полной бедности
utter
тотальной.
poverty,
Вот.
and
Они
here it is.
все, в общем, спали и видели,
And
когда уйдет Гани, потому что
and they were
они
waiting
его
Ghani to
обвиняли в том, что
leave because
в том, что он казнократ, коррупционер,
they blamed him that he
своего
embezzled
народа,
money all the
в
time
том, что он марионетка
because he was
режима,
a puppet
даже
of the
доходило
regime,
до того, что он
and even it had
солдаты
to go
просто
so
приезжал
far
говорить,
that
что
he
там, что
used to flee
им вообще
just
не платят. То есть
and the
деньги
soldiers used to
присваивают
say
другим.
that they were not
Командиры или даже
paid, and commanders
выше.
were not paid. Even the higher
Вот,
higher
поэтому
echelons of the commanders were not paid. Absolutely,
неудивительно,
it's
почему,
not surprising that it
почему
happened like
Афганистан
this. Why
перешел под
Afghanistan
власть относительно небольшой
was
группировки,
taken over by
относительно небольшой.
Taliban
Так легко
so
и
easily
практически,
and
без
relatively easy.
такого
Practically
насилия,
no violence
когда
has
говорили,
taken
что там
place, as it was said by the Western
это были
media.
какие-то локальные,
Only there were
локальные
some local
стычки, вот,
skirmishes
собственно,
with
даже не столько
local,
с силами,
not with the
силами
forces of the
правопорядка, сколько
national
там с какими-то
forces
местными
of,
князьками,
but with the
местные
local,
интересы,
so to say,
они
those kind of the
набивали свои
kings
карманы. Талибы
who
все
used to
это
embezzle
все это
and pocket the
ликвидируют. Вот
money, and Taliban is going to
первые
eliminate
сутки,
them. These are the
во-первых, наш
first
контакт с
24
Талибом, вот этот
hours
вот, который в ходе которого они взяли за нас ответственность и будут
when they took the
дежурить
responsibility
в
for
любом
us,
случае.
and they
И вот
were
первые
going
сутки
to
их
keep a
пребывания в
watchful eye
городе
on
и
the
того, что они
embassy.
делают, создают
And what they
очень,
do, it
очень
makes an
обнадеживающее
impression. It gives
впечатление.
you the solace that it's going to be very calm and
Доказать,
peaceful. They
что
want
их
to
слова, то,
make
что они
sure
будут
that their
социально
words are not just
ответственная
empty
политика,
words, because they are going to be
не просто
responsible
слова.
for the
То есть так и
official
будет. Они
policy
сейчас
and what they have
завоевывают.
told,
Вот
and they are
я
just
тебе это объясню. Они сейчас
earning the
народа.
support
Они сейчас
of the
завоевывают
population of
поддержку тех,
Afghanistan and for
кто
support of
в них не
those
верит.
who
И
distrusted
с
them,
тем,
didn't
чтобы потом
believe what they were going
из
to do, so that
военно-политической
from the
силы
military
превратиться
political force
в силу
to
политическую.
transform into
Потому
a
что сейчас
full-fledged
уже
political
уже
force.
не с кем воевать. У
And there
них
is
нет,
nothing, nobody
только
to
ИГИЛ,
fight
но
with, only the
ИГИЛ их очень
ISIL.
боится,
ISIL is so much
талибы, в
scared
свою
of them from
очередь, страшно
Taliban.
ненавидят
The
ИГИЛ. Поэтому
Taliban hates ISIL.
вот когда они
ISIL,
освоятся,
ISIL.
когда они как бы, как они сами говорят, знаете, там такой термин есть интересный, мы сейчас берем Кабул на баланс.
And they say that the Taliban says that we are taking Kabul under our balance, taking care of the embassies, all the abandoned embassies, for example. We are going to ask everything is okay. We are going to put the security there. and so that nobody would break windows and loot. And they are so much careful approach. They have come here like the hosts, like masters in a very good sense of the word, not like the invaders, not like the burglars. This is the first group unarmed people of Taliban. They used to kneel and kiss the ground. Their looters and invaders are not going to behave themselves like that. They had no purpose to loot. In this way, I'm quite hopeful that everything will run smooth like that. Tomorrow I will have a meeting with the chief of Taliban, who is responsible around Kabul, and we'll work out every detail of the security areas in every detail, and once and for all to settle that matter. And further on, we'll have a look how the situation is going to unfold. Please tell us, are they controlling Taliban? Is Taliban controlling all the provincial centers? Not Ashur, not Ashur, not Ashur. From Kabul, brothers Mosul fled to the first vice president, Salik. He's Tajik. He fled to Pashar. He's quite different. He is adamantly against Taliban and Panjshir. They tried to turn Panjshir into a hotspot of anti-Taliban resistance. Taliban are not going to invade it, capture. They have fled over there, and that's it. It's okay. It's very hard to make some forecasts over here and to go into the heads of Taliban, but maybe Taliban is going to show the population of Afghanistan. There are some ordinary people. They are not the ex-president or something like that. Local bigwigs, and they are going to demonstrate. Have a look how it was right before and how it's going to be after. This is the way, and they want to show under Ghani the situation. They want to show when there was a lot of terrorist acts and skirmishes, something like that, and they want to show how it's going to happen. Every night I used to hear some blasts, some explosions. This is the first night when it's relatively calm. No gunshots. It was quite expectedly, and a lot of Western media predicted that there's going to be a collapse and a bloodbath there, and this is quite in reverse now. In the security matters, under Ghani, our Afghan friends were afraid to come to the embassy because they were afraid that along the road they were going to be mugged, robbed, and captured, and even killed. And we had to see each other during the daytime. Now it's going to be quite different. Everything promises to be quite okay. And I know that in the regions where they got used to, everything is relatively calm. Even during the night, you can go there. Nobody is going to steal your bike. It's quite peaceful during the nighttime. Everything is calm. Everything is calm. In this respect, they are quite adamant and hard against the looters. Somebody will tell that they are overly tough. Those people who just share some information, who give some telephone calls to the embassy, and we make appointment with us, and people are sick and tired of the lawlessness under Ghani. Even the central government and the local government, what they did, they embezzled money. And they pocketed money. Even when Ghani was going to flee with a helicopter, he used to load cash with dollars, and they couldn't put all the money over there. They were in a very hurry to flee, and they had a lot of money, and some boxes of dollar were left on the runway. And here is the scene we have. Taliban doesn't like these kind of things. You can like them, you can hate them, but that but because they are going to take the hotline of the social fairness, you can rely on that. This is the because people of Afghanistan have the demand of that. They want to have that because 80% of the population is in poverty. Because Afghan poverty, it's not an average, because it's an absolute 100% poverty. And when there is no food, for example, last year, and I received some messages that in a province some few children died. Did the Taliban kill them? No. When they had no food, when they just ripped off the tree of its leaves and tree fell down and killed them. And I have message, for example, when girls died out of the bomb explosion, and I asked them, did the Taliban kill them? No. They found a mine in a military warehouse of the National Security Forces so as to have some food. They take them and to sell that mine, and it exploded. And the situation is like this here because the population here has been pushed and is utterly something like the devastated. No, not something devastated, but they are very jolly. They are positive, but they have nothing to hope for. They have lost their hope for anything, and they don't know how to get out of the poverty. They have no houses. They have no sewage, no running water, nothing. When our friends, our embassy, for example, they live in the mud houses, and they, when the colds come here, they burn like bonfires because it's so much cold to keep their house warm. They because firewood is so expensive, they burn cellophane bags, plastic bottles, and they burn in their house, and out of that chemical smell and smoke and out of the carbon monoxide, families used to die. And even just a few days ago, the other day, we used to talk to each other, and they tell me that two of his children and the house head of the master have died out of that carbon monoxide. They are going to combat with this. Taliban is going to eliminate this. They have the country of in a totally totally broken down, toppled down in this way, and what has to do with that? Because total resistance has to do with that. Nobody, there is no state or people's army here, no resistance. Even the Kabul army, the only unit where the soldiers were paid. And when they saw what was going on, they surrendered when Taliban took over, even being unarmed. Tell us, please, even during these conditions, we've got to bring some humanitarian aid to the port of the population of Kabul, I mean from Russia. The question is quite urgent, but we have got to see how the situation is going to unfold with Taliban in the city, and right after that we're going to arrange our approach to a long-term prospect. I'm talking about the first day, about my first impressions, but it gave us a lot of hope. And the history is quite different. And even we had the 1990s when this Taliban movement was behaving quite different in a very tough manner. But now it's absolutely different. At the same time, when the people are right next outside this fence, in away 20 meters where I am from my office, they are absolutely dead set to keep security, and they have pledged they are going to keep our security. And I have one more question. Could you tell about coalition government with Who? I can't figure that out. With Abdullah Abdullah,
Извините меня, то же самое, что и Гани, чуть левее, чуть
Abdullah Abdullah
вправо.
is like Ghani.
Какая коалиция?
What coalition you are talking about? I won't agree with that.
Это все-таки оппозиция.
This is something like
Эти люди
opposition.
были из политической оппозиции Гани. Ну,
These people were from the political opposition of Ghani.
Абдулла, конечно, был при
Abdullah
власти, он был,
was at the power, at the government.
ну, так,
He was like the quasi
хорошая
second
интеллигенция,
representative,
всё. Но
second to first.
здесь была и, ну да, когда еще был Гани.
Under
Ему
Ghani,
значительная
could-
политическая оппозиция,
he was a
которая,
significant political opposition. He's talking
требовала
about
его
Abdullah.
отставки,
After
которая не
his
хотела
resignation,
быть ему
who
подпоркой, быть ему
he didn't
декорацией,
want
которая не хотела входить в какие-то
to be
театральные
in
органы,
the something like the
власти,
theatrics of the puppet government. He didn't want to be part of that, quasi bodies of the government. He was,
силы-то есть.
and there are enough powers
Политические, здесь
and
довольно,
political powers,
спектр политических сил
and
богат.
their political power is quite wide range here.
Если вы послушаете гимн, есть
If you listen the national anthem in the Russian translation, you have the list of the nationalities, and they have a lot of nationalities, and this has to do with political, and they have even more political forces than the list of nationalities. And I'd like to reiterate, and I can't get into the heads of the Taliban representatives, but it was going to be quite reasonable to have a social foundation that would provide them with a wide range of political support. But the regime has fled, you know, to ordinary people, to ordinary officials, or to ordinary militaries. They guaranteed amnesty. They are not going to press anybody. They were not going to. And they see the people lived, under what condition they lived.
Даже те, кто работал в этих министерствах, чиновниках, там ничего особенного. Поэтому
in this regard, and I think that there are prospects for entering the government of different sectors of forces, and there is a nationality here, Khazarians, and they were afraid of Taliban. When they heard the word Taliban, nothing now is quite okay. They are just nearby here, and everything is calm. Nobody just harasses Khazarians. It's quite okay. This kind of the phobia is absolutely gone, which Khazarians used to feel. Some politicians behave in a provocative way. There is a leader of Uzbek, Dushtu. I don't know whether he's a leader or something like that. He's supporting Uzbeks. He told that we are going to turn all the north to a graveyard. After that, he immediately fled. Thank you very much.